All right, here we are starting, or kind of in the middle, but kind of starting week 4 of the transformation challenge. And from what I hear, things are going really well. People have lost, close to 10 pounds from just about everybody that I've talked to or heard from, or from just about everybody that's willing to share that information with me. Um, I've heard a couple bad things in the sense of that this is freaking hard and it's hard to drink that much water every day, and to be this consistent on a meal plan is hard too. And yeah, that's why it's a challenge. I mean, that's why we're doing it. It's only 6 weeks. Like let's stick to it, and hopefully we can make some lifestyle changes out of this challenge too. And if anything, you have 42 days worth of recipes that you can use and move forward with in your lifestyle, and things like that. But this is one of those special little gifts that I wanted to put into that $25 entry fee that I charged everybody for this. And there was a couple more things that I wanted to do, but because of the events that have taken place, we cannot do those things anymore. So we'll stick with this. But I wanted to talk about carbohydrates today, and it's mostly because I don't think everybody fully understands the function of carbohydrates and a lot of food in general. So if there's enough information, or if there's enough of a need or a want for maybe a protein slide presentation or a fat presentation, I can do those too. But carbohydrates are important to me. It's easy to eat protein. I think it is, and a lot of people are finding that out now too because they can plan ahead, or they're following this meal plan. Fats are another whole monster, but carbohydrates. And the reason I want to talk about this is because there are some really good benefits to carbohydrates. There's also some bad benefits, and then there could be some kind of ugly benefits because of our society and the way that we're living, and things like that. So, I don't want you to be afraid to eat an apple. I don't want you to be afraid to eat a banana. I want you to be a little more cautious of that Red Bull that you're drinking, or that cappuccino that you need to have, or the processed foods that you're eating. So today we're going to be covering carbohydrates, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Let's get started. What are carbohydrates? Again, we're going to cover it all. Why are they good for you? Why they could be bad for you, and all of that ugly in between. So there's a lot of misinformation, misinterpretation of information out there that I want people to be aware of. So I'm going to quickly go over kind of the background of carbohydrates and how they work in our body, and then we'll go over why they are good, why they could be bad, and all that ugly stuff. Okay? Carbohydrates. Here's a picture. It's got pretty much all of them on there. Strawberries, carrots, tomatoes, lettuce, pineapple, banana, oranges, apples. You name it, from the grain side of things, and things like that. There's pasta, there's noodles on there, there's bread, there's bagels. All of that stuff falls into the carbohydrate category. In the top right corner, there's some dairy products. I don't know if I really consider them a carbohydrate. Um, I know they kind of fall in their own little dairy category, and they're kind of their own little thing. A glass of milk has however many grams of fat in it, depending on what type of milk you get, but then it can also have 13 grams of carbohydrates and 9 grams of protein. So there's some calories in milk. A glass of almond milk, for instance, then has like 0, maybe 1 gram of carbohydrate and 1 grams of protein. So there's a big difference there. A lot of unwanted calories that you don't really need, and it's not really coming from a dairy source either. Here's a picture of carbohydrates. Carbohydrates. These things I do consider carbohydrates. Alcohol is in its own thing, but I'll talk more about that in a second. But if we look at this picture, there's a lot of stuff on here that we consume on a daily basis, and we don't really think about the value or the harm that these could be doing to us. And we look in the top left corner, there's a cappuccino there. Bottom left corner, Red Bull, orange juice, Gatorade, vitamin water, pomegranate juice thing. In the middle, there's these Cliff Bars. There's these Cliff Bars that everybody loves. Obviously, you got your alcohol and things like that in the top right corner. Donut right there in the middle on the right. And then the bottom right corner's got the sodas. Talk a little bit about each of them. What I want you to be careful of is consuming like too many of these types of foods. Now, obviously, there's that rule of moderation. And what does moderation really mean? It means that you shouldn't be doing these things frequently, right? So moderation might be 2-3 days apart type thing like that, and being smart about it too. Nutrient timing and things of that nature. But if we think about a cappuccino, yeah, that looks pretty cool. Actually, at one point in my life, I still have the videos. I actually knew how to do that with a cup of coffee because I was going to start a coffee business. But anyways, yeah, it looks all fine and dandy, but that thing probably contains 400 or 500 calories, and it's in a 6 ounce, maybe 8 ounce cup. 40 grams of sugar in there. And if we're wanting comparing like sugar right away, we can look down in that picture right below it. Boom, there's a Red Bull, 27 grams of sugar, 7 teaspoons in an 8 ounce can of Red Bull. Then we go to that orange juice right next to it, maybe a 10-ounce orange juice. Orange juice, something that a lot of you consume in the morning on a daily basis with 41 grams of sugar. Okay? We shouldn't be close to that. I mean, you might get to it if you're eating whole food after the end of the day, but that's just one meal. I mean, that's one meal. If you do that at any time of the day, I would say more along the lines of after a workout. I'll explain why later. 10 teaspoons of sugar in that. 10.5 in a big Gatorade. These vitamin waters that are supposed to be so good for you because of what they have in there for focus or power or vitamin C or antioxidant support, things like that. There's 8 teaspoons of sugar in there, 32 grams. Then this pomegranate juice, 62 grams of sugar, 15.5 teaspoons in that thing. I don't think you're supposed to consume those in one serving, but holy cats, let's look at that again. 62 grams of sugar in that. Cliff Bars, they're full of some sugar. They have some fiber in there. There's a lot of carbohydrates in Cliff Bars. The normal sized ones I think contain anywhere from like 35 to 40 grams of carbohydrates. And, it might be good for a meal replacement if you slap a piece of lean meat in there like chicken or turkey burger, lean meat, lean red meat, something like that. But, we eat those because they're good. And they have whole foods because they're organic, and the organic is the best thing. What is really organic is another whole slide presentation that I could go off of. Looking at that, yeah, it's quality food, but at the same time, there's a lot of additives in there that you don't need, and we're just eating it because it's easy and on the go. And then we get in this habit of eating this on the go stuff. It goes hand in hand with like an orange juice, okay? You do Cliff Bar every day and sometimes twice a day because you're looking for meals to eat because you're not prepared. And all of a sudden you're having 80 grams of carbs coming from 2 Cliff Bars. Like, I would rather have those 80 grams come from, personally, I would rather have them come from a few pieces of fruit and some veggies, and maybe a piece of Ezekiel bread or something like that. But, whole foods, rather than everything kind of pushed together in a Cliff Bar. Alcohol, it's more along the lines of the malt liquors and things of that nature. And sorry, our dishwasher just went on in the background, so hopefully I'll be able to talk over that. But it's these malt liquors that are in there, and they contain as much grams of sugar as like a Red Bull, if not more. And then we have beer that contains some now, not a lot, but some, like your ales, your ciders and things like that. And if we start looking into like the spirits side of things, all of a sudden we're talking about mixing those with soda and juice, which obviously contain more sugar, and it's got a carbohydrate-like effect. Okay, soda's got loads of sugar in it, loads of sugar. The diet soda is okay, in the sense of no sugar. And then it has aspartame in there, and that's an artificial sweetener that's not approved by the FDA. And there's a bunch of good studies out there that says that it's terrible for you, and it'll cause you to have this fungus bacteria known as Candida, and it'll cause 80% of the adverse food reactions. But you know what? There's also a bunch of studies out there that says it doesn't. So I'm not condoning, I'm not promoting diet soda. I'd rather just have you drink water. If you need it sweetened, put some lemon, some lime in there, some cucumber, things like that. But maybe looking at a BCA drink as well, just to kind of get that little sugary rush out of there. But anyways, that's another story, and I don't want to go off topic here. These are all considered carbohydrates. I didn't even talk about the donut yet because that speaks for itself, but I think there's as many grams of carbohydrates and sugar in there as there is a Cliff Bar. I could be wrong, but I don't know if I'm too far off on that. So you got to be aware of these things, okay? You go to your frappe or your Starbucks and you order a double frappe latte with extra syrup and whipped cream on top, or whatever it is. That's asking for 600, 700, 800 calories in a coffee. I would rather have you just get black coffee and have a little protein baggie, protein powder baggie on hand, and you just pour some of that in there and stir it up. Boom, you have your little cappuccino. But you're getting a lot of unwanted calories, and carbs are the easiest way for you to do that because our society has made them easier to obtain and process. Okay? Carbs, and all foods for that matter, are nothing more than energy. I'll say that one more time. Carbs, and all of our food for that matter, are nothing more than energy. Carbohydrates are the body's prime source of energy. They're the prime source of fuel. That's what they want to use the fuel for. Okay, it's harder for proteins and fats to be broken down as fuel, especially protein, but it can be done, and I'll explain a little bit more about that in a second. But I want you to know that food is nothing more than energy. Okay, if we take this thermodynamic equation, I'll make it in simplified terms here. Energy, it says that energy can either be created or destroyed, but transferred. So if we think about that for our health purposes and what we're doing on that ends, created and destroyed or transferred, energy in, if energy in is greater than energy out, it'll create a gain in weight. Okay, so if the food coming into our body is more than what we put out in work and effort and exercise, we gain weight. If energy in is less than energy out, or if we want to put it this way, energy out is greater than energy in, we can get loss of weight. Okay, so if we are exercising more than we eat, or if we're burning off more than we consume in a day, we have weight loss, fat loss, hopefully. Drastic ends of either of those, either too much energy in or too much energy out, will cause problems. Okay, there is a program that's out there, and it's what I've been trying to help you guys with. And this transformation challenge is a little bit on more of the low end of things, but that's why we're only doing it for 6 weeks. Okay, it is something that you can't, you don't want to eat so much and not do enough, because then you're either going to turn obese or have other types of issues and diseases. And if you work out too much, or if you exercise too much, or if your energy output is too great compared to your energy in, your food in, that's also asking for a disaster. Okay, so when all of you think that you need to exercise 2 or 3 more hours while still maintaining this 1,200 calorie diet on the 6-week challenge, that's not right. That's why you have 2 days off. You can add in the low intensity cardio there, and that's why the ignition thing is only on Sunday, so it's really not much that you're doing on Sundays either. But we don't want to overtrain this, because then we're just going to end up right where we're at, and you're going to be wondering what's happening, and you cannot overtrain this because you're not eating enough to do it. We're on this program together. That's what I want you to understand here. Okay, so again, your energy out can't be so great that it causes a dysfunction and another imbalance in itself, because that's just going to lead to more metabolic problems that'll last longer than what you think, and then you're going to be just in all kinds of dysfunction, and that's going to end up having you being disappointed. I've seen it before. I see it right now. It just happens. Okay, so don't overwork yourself here. Follow the program. You have almost 3 weeks left of this, week 4, week 5, and week 6, so stick to it. Going back to this, carbs nothing more than energy. Let's talk more about that, and we'll get to that as we talk about the digestion process and then the function of carbohydrates, or how they're used as energy. So we consume carbohydrates obviously through food and or drink. Through the consumption phase, we go to the digestion phase, where all of our carbohydrates are converted into monosaccharides. That's from simple to complex forms. Now obviously simple ones are easier to convert, complex forms are harder to convert, but they're all converted into these monosaccharides, glucose, fructose, and galactose, and that is then released into our bloodstream as glucose. Okay, that's our body's supply of that. There's some other things that happen there, and I'll talk more about that when we get to the bad end, or why carbohydrates could be bad. When they're released into the bloodstream, then our body has to decide what to do with them. So the function of that is either energy or storage. Okay, energy, minimum of 50 grams of carbohydrates a day, and that is to maintain bodily functions, proper bodily functions. Okay, that's for the brain, that's for the nervous system, that's for the liver, and whatnot. Now our muscles also use this as energy, and they refer to it as muscle glycogen storages. Muscle glycogen is what's used to help muscles contract and work and things like that and grow. It's their fuel. So being, um, on that end, that's where the carbohydrates are converted into, monosaccharides and then get into glucose, and then they convert it into mono or muscle glycogen to be used. If those are full, or if your body doesn't need to use any of these other carbohydrates that you just consumed, it'll go into storage. And let's say you didn't work out for a few days, or you don't exercise. Let's say you don't exercise in general. Your muscles don't really need to work very hard, right? So they never really deplenish their reserves of muscle glycogen, so they never need to be replenished. They never need to be refueled. So all these carbohydrates that you're eating just go into your daily function. And if you sit for your job, or if you sit a lot, you're talking even more of how you don't need as much energy. And again, consuming all those carbohydrates, which is the easiest things for us to find and get our hands on, we're just asking for trouble and steady weight gain, or we'll put it this way, you're not losing fat because of what you're eating. Okay? So good for you. Again, they're the body's main source of energy. Our body loves carbohydrates. Okay? We crave carbohydrates. We crave sweets. We crave fuel. We don't really crave almonds or walnuts or macadamia nuts or something like that because they are fats. Sometimes the salt intake, maybe we crave it, but that might be for other reasons. But we don't crave things like that. Some of us crave meat. That might be our body telling us something too, but we crave carbohydrates is what I'm getting at. And sometimes if you crave something so much, it might be because there's an imbalance going on. For instance, maybe your body's looking for a source of fuel because it's not getting it from anywhere else, or because all of a sudden you woke up and didn't eat breakfast and you're sitting there 9 hours later after being up, and now you're craving a Mountain Dew, a juice, and some sort of 6-inch sandwich from Subway with your bread and then whatever kind of dressing you put on there that also has sugar and carbs in it and things like that, and now you're asking for trouble. Okay, that's where all this balance comes into play. That's where this meal plan comes into play. It's balanced foods. But again, going into the body's main source of carbohydrates for energy, it's more for performance. Okay, that's for events, that's for athletic events, that's for exercise. So if you're going to set some PR, some personal records in the gym, if you're training for something significant on the ends of heavy weights or things like that, like you need carbohydrates to help keep the muscles replenished in your body at full capabilities, potential. We'll put it that way. Muscle building and muscle function, we already talked about the carbohydrate thing. I'm not going to go into the whole ATP process and how it's broken down and how it works with the muscles. Just know that your muscles love carbohydrates, and that's the easiest way for your muscles to get fuel. Okay? So for muscle building, you want to add more carbohydrates in there so they're always being replenished and that they're always growing and they're always fed. All right? And that's through a good form of complex carbohydrates and then some simple forms after the workout. But that's also why, for instance, not necessarily on this challenge because we're following a program that's a little different than what I've stressed, but on my precision nutrition plates that you guys get for post-workout, I emphasize more fruits because they have more whole food sugar, fructose, and you also get that little cup of starchy carbohydrates in the form of potatoes, pasta, rice, bread, because your body breaks those down easier and they puts them into sugar, and that's when our muscle glycogen storages need to be refueled. So we want something in there to help them refuel that. Okay. The 50 grams of carbohydrates a day are also in there to help daily function of the body, but it's also to prevent ketosis. There's a lot of kind of riffraff on there. They say like 50 to 100 grams. I believe the National Strength and Conditioning Association says that to prevent ketosis, which ketosis is just high levels of ketones in the bloodstream, which is the result of incomplete breakdowns of fatty acids, not free fatty acids, but fatty acids. So carbohydrates help break down fatty acids too. Again, it's not something that's extremely important, but it's something that I want you to be aware of because we're kind of on that edge right now in this transformation challenge at the 60 grams, right? It's not something that we want to keep up for long term. Okay, that's why it's just a 6-week challenge. You can keep this up for maybe 6 to 12 weeks tops, but that's with proper nutrition through like the cheat days And that's why we have cheat days, so we overload our system and then we can sustain low carbohydrates for 6 days a week. So that's why we cheat. Again, if you need more news on why we are cheating because my cheat guide wasn't enough, I'll send you more articles. Okay, we're doing so well 6 days a week. You have to have a day where you get away with cheats. Okay, anything goes, besides alcohol, but anything goes for that cheat day. Okay. So performance-wise, like I said before, it's more along the lines of events or competitions or certain athletic events, something that you're training for in that sense, or things like that. Or we can look at other examples of poor performance, for maybe lack of carbohydrates. Um, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a poor performance. That's a really poor performance on Brett Favre's end. I think as a Packer fan, I had that for a few years. I think we had a Super Bowl in there too, but man, I think that's just the Vikings in the nutshell, actually. Poor performance. So you know what that directly relates to, right? Not enough carbs. Brett Favre did not have enough carbs on that day. He might have been getting tired. I'm just kidding. It was a poor performance, but you know what? It also wasn't something that is directly related to his carbohydrate intake. I'll tell you that much. Obviously, Brett Favre is a great football player that played for a poor team. But, it's a performance issue. Maybe fourth quarter, 10 seconds left, he might have been getting tired. His body might have been worn out. Maybe he didn't have enough zip on the ball because of that. I could stretch it that far. But, there are people that do, perform quite well. Here's one for instance. Devontae Adams. Yeah, that's a touchdown. That's a touchdown. That's high performance right there. That's fully loaded. That's athletic ability. That's the Packers. That's Green Bay Packers winning football games. I don't want to hear anything more about the Super Bowl stuff. Okay, so that's all I'm going to talk about that. Anyways, that's why carbohydrates are good for you, for performance, for muscle building, and to prevent ketosis. Okay, daily function of the body. Carbohydrates are necessary. They're a macronutrient. You can't avoid them. Don't be afraid to eat them. You can have a well-balanced diet with carbohydrates. The best sources of carbohydrates are the whole food sources like vegetables and fruits, and then moderation with the grains and things like that. Okay? I'll go back to that saying, one bad meal won't make you fat like one good meal won't make you skinny. Carbs could be bad for you. Okay? When eaten in excess, carbohydrates go to storage. Okay, I talked about that earlier. When our body doesn't really need any more fuel and our muscle glycogen storages are full, there's not going to be any use for them. So they get broken down into monosaccharides, put into our bloodstream as glucose, and that's all it is. Okay, so if we don't use that through anything, then we get stored. Okay. With that being said, the simpler the carbohydrate, the easier it is for the body to break down. Sugar is a form of this. And other forms of sugar like honey and syrup and things like that are forms of this too. And those are easy to break down, and they cause a hormone release with insulin. And insulin puts us in a fat storing mode. Okay, sugar puts us in a fat storing mode. There's one good time to have sugar, and that's post workout. And that's because when insulin is released and we're put in that fat storing mode, that glucose in our body is being released to restore our muscle glycogen storages to build muscle. Okay, that's for anybody, not just people looking for fat loss. That's when you want your sugar, if you have to have it or if it happens to be there. That's why your depletion workout is as close to as possible as your cheat meals on Saturday, and that's why on Sunday you have the ignition workout to work those off. Okay, that's why those post-workout meals are what they are. To try and use, all of those foods that potentially could be harmful for us in a good way. And if you eat too many carbohydrates, or we'll just say if you do them too frequently, like if carbohydrates have to be in every single meal and have to be like a dominating factor in every meal, like you have to have 2 pieces of bread with potatoes, plus the fruit with the jelly and the bread, things like that, like it just gets an excess and your body can't use that much, so of course you're going to store it because you're not as active. Now, if you're training for a competition, or doing some sort of bodybuilding thing, potentially you could use it that way, but you still have to follow a guideline, a program for that to happen. In this 6-week transformation challenge, everyone's on a high protein intake to help sustain hunger and keep you full, as well as a high fat intake because we're feeding the body fat so the fat can be used as fuel rather than carbohydrates. We still need carbohydrates to function, as I said before, and that's why our cheat day is so critical. I'm not telling you to go and eating 3 avocados with 3 handfuls of almonds, 10 eggs, and the fattiest piece of meat you can find on Saturday. It's a cheat day. What do you think is a cheat day is? Like, yeah, I told you it's already high in carbohydrates, but you would already choose that to begin with, okay? Carbohydrates are in everything that we eat. It's not hard to find a cheat meal, okay? Good or bad, it's not hard to find a cheat meal, right? So we need those. Carbs could be bad for you because of storage purposes and because of insulin release, okay? Especially sugar. So this is why sugar is so bad, along other reasons, but for what today? Why carbs can be so damn ugly. Again, it's sugar. It's in almost everything. And if you guys are logging this food, which you should be, on MyFitnessPal or wherever, you can see where the sugar intake comes in. But on MyFitnessPal, you can see it right there. You can see your sugar intake. If you want me to view your diary in MyFitnessPal, add me, Jordan22R, Jordan 22R, all one word, all lowercase, and make sure your settings are changed to so your friends can view your profile. It's just under your privacy settings there. But I'll look, rather than sending me your profile logs all the time, I can look on there, and I have been looking for a number of clients. But for those of you that have not sent me logs, send me your logs. If you're following the meal plan, I know your sugar intake is down. I know it's around 30, but that's through whole food sources like fruits and berries, like berries and maybe a quarter of a banana and things like that. A little bit of honey or a little bit of syrup if you're doing the pancakes that day. They shouldn't be at 50, 60, 70 grams, okay? They should not be there. Processed carbs are another reason why carbs can be so ugly. If you want to think about processed carbs, think about almost all of the foods that can last a long time on a shelf or without being refrigerated. You can look at that picture there. There's tons of foods in there. There's animal crackers, there's white bread, there's Chips Ahoy cookies, there's applesauce, there's Teddy Grahams, there's cranberries on there, there's fruit roll-ups, there's Lunchables, there's Sun Chips, there's even jelly, chocolate, and peanut butter is on there too. Peanut butter is considered a processed food because they do add sugar into it, and they do add some other things in there to help it contain, to maintain, to preserve itself. So fortunately it is a processed food. It's not necessarily a processed carbohydrate. It's more of a fat. You can obviously go to the co-op and get your peanut butter processed, if you will, there. If you buy the all-natural kind, they just don't add molasses into it, and molasses is like another form of sugar. So, and they also take out some of the oil in there too. But anyways, looking at that, you can kind of get an idea of why carbohydrates can be so ugly, because they're everywhere and it's all processed stuff, okay? We don't want processed carbohydrates. Our body doesn't know what to do with those all the time, especially if we get into really nasty stuff. But it's easier for them to convert it into a monosaccharide form because it all is like sugar. Okay, a lot of it is sugar, a lot of the crap in there, so it causes that insulin release and it goes into storage because we're just eating a ton of unwanted, unnecessary carbohydrates. Okay, some of those are still good after workouts. I'm not going to lie to you on that one. They still could be used, but used wisely and for the appropriate goals. I'm not promoting that again, but in a sense that it needed to happen. There's plenty of research out there that says that could work. I would rather have you do whole food sources, and I'm always going to stand by that. After all of that's being said and done, I want to let you know that there is still hope. And one of the things that we're doing is this transformation challenge. And one thing that you're getting out of it is that you're learning how to eat better, because now you have recipes and a structured meal plan to show you that. Okay, I'm hoping it causes a lifestyle change, like I said before, and I'm hoping you go through with it and really take some more away from this rather than just the weight loss. Okay, so I got some bullet points here to cover, and I want you to know that eating whole foods will always keep you will always keep you in the right side of the fence. Okay. And if you're ever struggling on what is a whole food, you can think paleo. So can you hunt or gather it? Okay, can you hunt or gather it? That's the only question you need to ask yourself. Can you hunt or gather it? If you can't, probably shouldn't eat it. We can go to the pseudo paleo style where there's some rice and some grains involved and things like that. But you got to realize that, like when you're eating these foods, where did this come from? Can I hunt or gather this? Yeah, in some shape or form, I probably could. So even if there's some stuff added to it, it's probably still good to eat. So go ahead and eat it. Um, or you can go with the little thing called green face, which means um, was it green or colorful, or did it ever have a face? Okay, that covers more than just carbohydrates, just like paleo does. But faces, obviously, that's where our proteins come into play. Was it green or colorful? Fruits, vegetables, boom, you're done. Like, think green face. Okay, it's a weird name. Got it from John Goodman, who was the founder of the personal trainer development site development center. And when I first read that, I kind of laughed. I'm like, yeah, that'll never work. And all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, green face. That does kind of stick. So green face, okay? I already talked about this, but use moderation, okay? Frequency is a big thing. If you're having an orange juice every day, if you're having Cliff Bars every day, things that we think are good for us, and they can be good for us, but on a high frequency like that can actually do a little bit of damage, okay, in the sense of fat loss. Stay active, obviously, stay active, big time, and that should help in that plan too. But then you might be more on a maintenance phase. It's things that you have to consider. Logging your food. I already talked about this with the MyFitnessPal. If you're not using MyFitnessPal, just keep logging it, keep going through with everything, making sure you know what you're measuring out to, and because if you're not measuring, you're guessing. So make sure that everything's measured out. And once you start doing it for 2-3 weeks, like we're at right now, things will get a lot easier because now you can just know how to measure it. Like you don't even need a cup. Sometimes you can just throw stuff in there because you kind of know. Cheat wisely. Okay, you have to cheat wisely. Um, that's not again on a frequency thing. Like maybe twice a week, 3 times a week tops. It shouldn't be like every day there's a little cheat here and there. Like that just all adds up, okay? And it just ruins the kind of the mental focus that you have because you're giving in every day. Oh, it's just a little piece of chocolate. I'll be okay. Yeah, you know what? You probably will, but you'll probably be okay at that same weight that you're at too. It's just one of those things. You can't outtrain. You can't outtrain a bad diet. Plain and simple. But again, going back to that same cliche, one bad meal won't make you fat, just like one good meal won't make you skinny. You have to stick to a proper plan and just cheat wisely. Okay, so if you end up having a work meeting on a weekend or something like that, just plan for it and go ahead, go ham, go all out. Also get some exercise in that day. Okay, try to get exercise in as close as you can to that meeting, whatever it is. Simple concepts that people stretch because that's what their mind wants them to do. Don't make them get stretched. Just keep them simple. Okay, stay active, cheat wisely, use moderation. Boom. Preparation's a big one. Again, we fall for this fast food little antics all the time because we are unprepared. Okay, we don't want to get up any earlier than we have to. We don't want to bake more chicken than we have to. We don't want to make eggs in the morning because we're already busy and stuff like that. At the same time, prepare them ahead of time. Like eggs can be made the night before. They hold up just fine scrambled in a container, sealed container. Chicken can last a week. Almost 5 to 7 days in the fridge. Same with with most meats. Obviously, fruits last a while. Apples last weeks. Oranges last weeks. Bananas last five days or so. But if you're prepared for this, it makes it a lot easier to make choices rather than like orange juice and Cliff Bars and cappuccinos. Okay, it does. I promise you that because you're prepared and it's good quality whole food that you're prepared for. If worse comes to worse, I'd rather have you eat a Quest bar, and that's me truly saying that, not because that I'm part of Quest and with them and everything else. I always said that to people. There's a lot of fiber in them. There's a ton of protein in them. Yeah, there's a lot of sugar coming from the alcohol side, but that fiber kind of cuts it back down. And they're easy ingredients that you can all read and that you all know. It's not, weird stuff in there that you'll find in Cliff Bars and other bars like that. Lastly, you got to keep working out and you got to work out to become awesome. Okay? We're all in this for a reason. We all exercise for a reason. We are putting it into our lifestyle. Okay? What is that reason? Whatever it is that is driving you is the reason that you need to become awesome. Okay? And you need to reach that level of awesomeness and keep pushing for awesome. Keep getting uncomfortable. You have to be uncomfortable. You have to. It's part of this process. If you get too stuck or easy being uncomfortable, then we need to find new ways to make you uncomfortable. That's what your trainer is there for. And if he or she is not doing that, then you're not got part of a good program. You need to do things that you don't want to do. That's just how it is. An example of awesomeness is the man Jordan Syatt here doing a a deadlift at 3 times his body weight. This was actually a while ago, and he actually just set another record for his body weight. I'll let you see this real quick. 3 times his body weight is quite a bit. I believe that's at 500 pounds if he's at 132. 396, sorry, 400 pounds. I was a little off there. Pretty easy. Not too bad. And like I said, he just did a body weight deadlift 4 times his body weight. I think just like 2 weeks ago at a powerlifting event, he was training for it for like 2 or 3 months, and he now weighs 130 pounds, and he lifted 530 pounds. There is a video out there. Unfortunately, this presentation wouldn't let me post it on here because it is so new. But I would say that's pretty awesome, and that's a level of awesomeness that, not necessarily that we all need to achieve, but it would be something like that to go after, lifting some sort of deadlift that's, twice your body weight, or 1 times your body weight, 3 times your body weight, something like that, like something cool that can go a long way. Otherwise, just being awesome in the gym, asking somebody like, what are you training for? What are you doing? Where did you learn that? Why are you doing that? Who cares? Just tell them you're being awesome. But that's why we work out, okay? There's a big reason to why we work out, and it's also to sustain a healthy lifestyle. But when you are in there, know what you're doing in there too. It's a big, it's a big disconnect that some of us have when we enter the gym and we kind of forget why we're there to begin with. And it's all part of this process, all part of this plan, all part of this transformation challenge. So work out to become awesome. Alrighty, thank you for listening or watching or viewing, whatever you did to be part of this presentation. We're on the last 3 weeks here. We're over the halfway point, so keep pushing, keep moving forward. Obviously, I'm here for questions if you have any. I hope for those of you that have continued training, that the trainer who you are with at Snap is pushing you like crazy. If not, make sure that they know that. I can't tell you guys that enough. Some of them might not realize it right away, like an experienced trainer might, or things like that. But being uncomfortable in a training session is not necessarily a bad thing if it's exercise-wise. But if it's being uncomfortable because of the connection, or because of the program, or because of result-oriented focus, then it's not okay. So make sure that you guys are all keep pushing and you keep moving forward in this program, okay? That don't let these last 3 weeks slip. Keep pushing, keep following the meal plan, keep getting your workouts in. Do those depletion and ignition workouts on the weekends. Get your metabolic finishers in there. If you need ideas of new metabolic finishers, I'll send you all 10 of them. 10 different ones that you can do and just incorporate at the end of your workouts. I don't care if it's with or without a trainer. Just start doing them, okay? You know what? I might just do that anyway. I might have just talked myself into sending more stuff out to you guys. So always willing to help. Always willing to find more information for you guys and push it your way. So again, thank you for watching. Thank you for continuing this transformation challenge. Everything's pretty much set except for the location to do the way out. But I will find that and I will let you all know. And I'll probably do it throughout a week, or 3 or 4 day span. Make sure I can get everybody in there, and we'll do it all together. Okay. So again, thank you. And I hope to talk or see you all very soon.